Hello, welcome to this section. We're here to talk about an educational section about the project. As a final year student, you probably may be asking what a project is, and you want to have understanding of a project work. Now, let's have a brief section of what a project work is. Now, in the educational section, before you graduate, you have to write a project work. In any higher institution, you have to undertake a project work. A project work refers to a detailed study undertaken by a student to uncover new facts, develop new ideas, understandings, or examine existing theories and phenomena. Now, it is an organized and systematic investigation that employs specific methods to collect, analyze, and interpret data. One of the most common words you can find in a project work is data. You will have variables. Now, every project work is undertaken to analyze new facts, is undertaken to discover new facts, and to prove either an existing theory right or wrong. Now you are undertaking this study in order to come up with a new idea to fill the literature gap. Now you come across words like a variable. A variable is a characteristic, a number or quantitative that can be measured or counted. Now, and the types of variables include independent variable. That independent variable influences other variables. Then we have the dependent variable, which are affected by other variables. We have the control variables. We have the control variable which keep constant to minimize their effect on the experiment. And we have the extraneous variable, which are unwanted influence that might affect the outcome of an experiment. Now these are types of variable and many more. And then in a project work, the project work is normally has 5 chapters. Project work normally has 5 chapters. We have chapter 1, we have chapter 2, we have chapter 3, we have chapter 4, we have chapter 5. These are the chapters in a project work. Now understand that each school has their own format. Now here am I talking to you from Faculty of Education, Niger Delta University. So I will be taking the formats of the Faculty of Education to explain some of the content that are similar, the same in any other university. Now let's go over from chapter 1 to chapter 5 as time will permit. Number 1, chapter 1 is introduction, and then it depends on the format given by your school, by your department, or by your faculty. Now the chapter 1 is introduction. Then 1.1 is background to the study. Background to the study. Now the background to the study is a brief detailed explanation of the study with the key variables under the study. Now you come to 1.2, which is the statement of problem. Now what prompted you to carry out that study? Something must have prompted you. There must be an urge. There must be something that stimulated you. You must see a reason to carry out a study. Why do you decide to carry out this study? So the statement of the problem. You want to carry out a study on anything, you must have a purpose and essence of carrying out that study. Then 1.3 is the purpose, or some schools call it objectives of the study. Now you need to break down your variables. You need to break down your variables to have sub-variables, and those sub-variables are your objectives. What are the variables you are considering under that topic? And then when you bring out either 3, either 4, either 5 of them, as the case may be or as may demanded, then those variables that you use for your purpose of study are the ones you now transform to a research question 1.4. Now the research question are the ones that actually leads the study. A study can not be carried out without a research question. There is no investigation, no empirical work that can be carried out without a research question. UNCWA 2016. Now, understand this, that research questions leads the study. You want to ask, you want to find out, you want to interview, you want to do anything to know the cause or an effect of something. Now, you have research hypothesis 1.5, as the case may be. In some schools they demand that, but mostly for the postgraduate, the masters and PhD and postgraduate diploma, they are required in most departments. But undergraduate studies, most of them are avoided. That hypotheses are not tested. Hypotheses are just what you tend to know, probably in terms of relationship, in terms of the cause and effect of two variables. You want to undermine to study two variables. Now you have the significance of the study. The significance of the study is talking about those who to benefit from the study, the categories of people to benefit from the study you are carrying out. Then we have the scope of the study. Now, the scope of the study is different from the limitation of the study. Now, when we talk about the scope, we are talking about the delimitation. We have the content scope, which has to do with the topic and the variables under investigation. And then we have the geographical scope, delimited to the environment where the study is to be carried out, the particular location the study is to be carried out. And then we have some studies as what we call the area of study. And if we have the area of study, then you have to give full description of that location of the study. Is it a state? Is it in a zone? Is it in a local government? Is it in a community? Is a particular school? You need to give full description of that study, the everything about that place. Then we have operational definition of term. As you can know that terms are defined according to the research work. The way you define the terms determine how you use those words in your research work. Now we come to that is chapter 1. Then in chapter 2 is review of literature. In some places they call it review of related literature review, and the rest of them. And now in order, some schools start from the theoretical framework, but in today's topic, I'm talking about it from the conceptual framework review. All right, in chapter 2 we start with 2.1. Each of the chapters carry the numbering is according to the chapter. Chapter 1 is 1.1 done, then chapter 2 is 2.1 done. Now in 2.1 we have the conceptual review. You have to discuss various and essential concepts under the study. The essential concepts in the study has to be discussed one after the other in detail, and then you bring in your sub variables in the study. And then the theoretical review or theoretical framework, as it may be, it has to do with related theories and they are relevant to the topic. You discuss the theory and make sure you link the theory to the study as it is relevant to that study. And then you have the empirical evidence. Empirical evidence has to do with recent studies in relation to the study. There are different studies carried out by different authors in that same field, similar to that topic. It may be the same or it may not be the same, and it may be carried out in different places. So you now recent studies in relation to the study, that is the empirical evidence. Then appraisal of literature, which is also known as summary of literature. You now bring in the summary of literature, all what has been discussed in the literature. You now summarize it, but remember, you are bringing the literature gap in that literature summary of literature, which is known as the appraisal of literature. Now, then after that, you go over to the chapter 3. Now, in chapter 3 is the research method or research methodology, as this case may be. Now, in that research method, which is chapter 3, 3.1 is research design. There are different research designs, several of them. We have the descriptive research design, we have the analytic descriptive research design, we have a lot of them, so many design. But the design must be selected according to the work. You must select your design. Is it a study, that quantitative study that has to do with the descriptive design, or what other study you are carrying out, or whatever is the study that may be? You have to carry out select your research design according to your study, which is very, very important. Then we'll come to 3.2, which is the population of the study. The population of your study has to do with all characteristics under the study. And now you probably want to carry out a study among teachers in a particular local government, secondary school teachers, primary school teachers, and then you must know the total population, and the population must be gotten from the right source in order to be attached as an appendix in the study. And then you have the sample and the sampling techniques. Now, a sample is just the small unit under study. When the population is large, sampling comes in, but when the population is small, sampling is not needed. But where we have a large population under study, then there is no need. A large population under study, then there is a need for sample. And when you sample the study, you could use Yemen's formula to arrive at the sample. Or then you could also use simple random sampling technique, stratified sampling technique, and the rest of them. We have the census sampling technique, and we have so many of them that can be used depending on the area of study or the work. If for example, if you are carrying out a study on experimental study or quasi-experimental design, then you must also have a control group and experimental group. So these are factors you then consider. So the sample and the sampling technique is one of the most important things in a project work. Then you come to 3.4, which is instrumentation. Now you have to describe the instrument you are using, the title of the instrument, the division. In most cases, the instrument is being divided into two parts. We have the part A containing the demographic variables. Either you are using male or female, either you are using small scale or medium scale, whatever the status you want to use, then it must be described. And then in section B, could be in clusters, it could be just in a group, as if they're dealing with the research question itself. And then finally, you have to give are you using 4-point rating scale or 5-point rating scale as or simple percentage? Then it must be described as part of the instrumentation. Then validity of the instrument. How do you know the validity of the instrument? We have the face and content validity of the instrument. And now, in most cases, you may be demanded to be valid. The instrument has to be validated by a supervisor, because the first person to see your instrument is your supervisor. He must correct it, or she must correct it. And then after corrections are made, then you will now take it up to other experts in related field to look through the content validity of the instrument. You now validate this instrument by expert, either 2 or 3 experts from different places taking their comment, and then you now effect necessary corrections where is needed. And then 3.6, you now come to the reliability of the instrument. The reliability of the instrument. How reliable is this instrument after the validation? Now, if the instrument has been validated by your supervisor and other experts, then you will need to know if the instrument is reliable. So you now carry out a study with a smaller number of persons, the same category of persons in your population or sample, but in different geographical locations, but having the same features of persons you are carrying out the study with. So you now administer this instrument, either you are using a pilot text or you just administer the instrument once. And now remember, that when you are carrying out a study, it could be if the study has to do with a relationship study or a just an ordinary study, then you determine the instrument to use to arrive at the reliability coefficient index. Now in some cases now you can use the Pearson product moment correlation coefficient PPMC, and you can use Cronbach alpha, you can use chi-square as the case may be to arrive at the reliability of the instrument. And if you arrive at the reliability of the instrument, just as Awana 1986 defined the reliability index of the study, you now determine if the instrument is valid or not. Like instrument falling between 0.60 something to 0.90 something, then you know your instrument is valid. But if it is below that, then you know that there is a low relationship and no relationship in that study. Reliability of the instrument. Then administration of the instrument, which is 3.7. Administration of the instrument. Now, how do you administer this instrument to the targeted population? That you as a researcher, you are involved, and then you, if the population is large, the sampling used is large, you could involve two other persons, 2 or 3, as the case may be. No specific number of persons that is to be involved, but you can involve as many as you can be able to pay for, or that can help you out to administer the instrument. And then after the administration, then you withdraw that instrument to analyze, and that is where you now have 3.8 coming to method of data analysis. You now, what method are you using? For the demographic variables, you can use simple percentage analysis to analyze the demographic variables, and then for the research question, you could use mean analysis. And if you are carrying out a study with hypothesis, then you could use, if the population is 30 and below, you could use t-test or z-test, or you can use any other test. If the study has to do with 3 level, then you can use ANOVA, ANCOVA, and the rest of them. If it's a relationship study, you can use Pearson product moment correlation coefficient, you can use chi-square. If the study has to do with a relationship cause and effect, you can use chi-square. So it depends on what the study is carrying out, and then you set up a criterion mean to determine the cutoff point in order to know if an item should be rejected or accepted. Then having said that, then you come to chapter 4. Chapter 4 is description, test of demographic variables, and a test of research questions. Your table according to the upper 7th edition, formatting the table, and then you come to discussion of findings. You come to the summary of finding. Then in chapter 5 particularly, that we now look at the conclusion drawn from the study. 5.1, 5.2, educational implication of the study. How relevant is that study to education? If you are in the faculty of education, how relevant it is. Then you come to 5.3, contribution to knowledge. What contribution has your study made to knowledge? Then 5.4, recommendations. What recommendation could you make? And then 5.5, limitation of the study. Limitation could be physical barriers encountered during the study. It could be the finance, it could be time frame, it could be any other health issues, family, the matters, and the rest of them that grossly affected your study. And then 5.6 is suggestions for further research. And your references matters a lot, using the APA format, current editions of the APA format. Do you put your references in order, and then attach with every other relevant appendix and title pages, and then you are good to go. And when you are preparing for a project defense, you should just prepare to defend for just 5 minutes. 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Don't prepare more than that, because you may not be given a luxurious time to stand before the supervisors, your external examiners, or whatever, to start talking for a long time. Know your topic very well and understand the topic. Know the key variables in that topic, and then after that, know the statement of problem, why you carry out that study briefly, and then you go over to the chapter 3. Majorly 3.1 to 3.8 should be known, as you understand the 3.1 research design, population sampling, and the rest of them. And then those are things you should know while preparing. Build up your confidence, your outfits, with the dressing you wear, and everything has to be neat. You must be vocal, you must be competent, you must be efficient, and you must be effective in your presentation. Now, I believe this presentation today about how to write a project work or brief explanation about project work has done a lot of good to you. Till we meet next time, subscribe. Thank you.